What is the difference between divorce and annulment?
The difference between a divorce and annulment is actually quite significant. In New Jersey, a divorce is the termination of a valid legal marriage. An annulment, by contrast, is a declaration by a court that your marriage was never valid in the first place. And there are some pretty significant consequences to having a divorce versus an annulment. If you divorce, you're entitled to statutory distribution of property, assets, and liabilities. You're entitled by statute to a declaration as to what's best for your children and how to decide that through a legal process. And you're entitled to support obligations. On the other hand, if your marriage is annulled, that means that you were never legally married in the first place. Essentially, we wipe out the fact that you were married. So if you have children, you will still be able to determine things such as custody, parenting time, and child support, because those statutes apply whether your children were born within a marriage or whether the parties have divorced. However, distribution of property, assets, and liabilities takes on a completely different tenor, and there are different laws that govern that if you have not been legally married. So it's important to actually walk through what the economic consequences would be to annul your marriage versus having a legal divorce with your attorney. It's also important to note that for some people, getting your marriage annulled is really about religion. In your faith, you may not be able to remarry if you have ever been married before. So for some people, regardless of the economic consequences, they still want to have their marriage annulled. But it is very difficult to achieve annulment in the state of New Jersey. You have to have very specific grounds. Oftentimes it needs to happen very close to the time that you actually legally married, and simply having differences of opinion between you and your spouse about what should have happened in your relationship, whether or not you should have children, how you're going to live financially, whether to have family members involved, that doesn't usually constitute a basis to have your marriage annulled.